Hey guys, how's it going? This is Peter Matthew back with you guys for much needed video. Have not uploaded in I think a month, maybe 2 months. It's been way longer than I ever wanted it to be, but here I am. I want to do some brief explaining on why there was such a long gap. Now, obviously, you guys hopefully know that I'm in college right now. I'm going to community college, studying business and interpersonal communication. But the main thing is I'm in college and I'm working fuller than full-time right now. I think I was at like 60 hours on my last schedule, and the week before that I was at like 57. So now it's starting to dial down again at work, but it still is really full-time, so I don't have too much time to get out here. But the main reason why I hadn't even made just a shop update in so long was because I had to be filming off of my phone. I don't know if you guys realized in the last video, all that was recorded off of just my iPhone, because my GoPro, what I'm filming off of right now, for whatever reason was not taking a charge. It turns out it was just the plug for the wall was burned out and it wasn't charging the camera, so then the camera wasn't working. So I haven't been able to get out here and film for quite some time. But I managed to get it to charge up again, so we are back in business. So I'm going to show you guys an upcoming project video and what will hopefully be my next video uploaded on this channel. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. This right here is a big piece of American elm. It is a real shallow bowl. I'd call this like a platter or maybe a fruit bowl. It is a crotch piece of wood, so there are 3 limbs coming off on each corner. It has some really nice grain. I have a flame going through it right there. It's got a little bit of cracks on the bottom. I'm not too worried about it. You'll find out why later, what I'm going to do with this. But basically, I'm going to start off by finish turning this sucker up and get it on the lathe, get it sanded down. And we'll focus on embellishing this thing after all that's completed. Right now, I'm just focused on getting it back into round, turned down to a pretty shape, and sanded up. And we'll take it from there. So let's get this on the lathe. So I do have my center from when I rough turned this. So all I'm going to do to remount this, and this is what I do for all my rough turn bowls, I just have a chuck on the spindle here, have the jaws open up pretty wide for lots of surface contact. Just pin that there. Got a live center in my tailstock, and just find that old center hole. You can see it has warped quite a bit. That's natural with green wood as it dries. But you want to lock everything down, get lots of pressure on there, make sure this is firm and secure up against that chuck. And if none of you guys know the type of mount this is for a rough turn bowl, this is basically a jam chuck in my headstock here, and it's just pressure holding it in place. And this is one of my favorite methods to remount a rough turn bowl. It keeps it nice and secure on the lathe. This is not going anywhere. So I got the tool rest. It's at about center height, maybe a little lower than. We're going to go ahead and start it off. Pretty slow speed, maybe only 400 RPMs. And I'm going to turn this down with a 5/8 bowl gouge with a Ellsworth grind on it. Okay, it's looking good. We still have a couple of the spots, I think, are right here and right here where it's still not turned into round. So we'll just keep on going, then I'll turn up the speed a little more and work on getting a nice clean surface. This is 80 grit. I would run some 80 grit on my drill sander here, but I don't have any 2-inch discs. So I'm just going to start it off with hand sandpaper just for the first grit, and then I have 150, 220, and 320 that I'll put on this drill. So here we go. So now that the outside of my bowl is all shaped up, I'm going to go ahead and use this little skew here to re-true up my tenon, which is also went out of round. And it's pretty important that this is nice and trued up for when we remount it in the chuck. So here's that. So now that we have turned the outside of this, sanded it, it looks pretty good. I've re-trued my tenon. Next thing is to take it out from between centers. I can put this into my chuck and we can work on the inside. So we'll go ahead and re-true up the lip of the bowl and then slowly work our way inside, checking for an even wall thickness as we go. Okay, so I just sanded up through 400 grit, and this looks really good. So now I'm going to go ahead and take it out of my chuck. I'm going to go ahead and reverse mount this in a jam chuck so that I can turn off the last of the tenon and also shape a bit of a foot on the underside of this and sand it and clean it up, and that is pretty much it for the final turning of this. Okay, so this is my jam chuck. It's basically just a piece of wood with a tenon on it. I kind of rounded in the middle portion of this so it's a little bit concave. I found that this gives a lot more surface contact around the outer edge of the jam chuck, and it's a lot more stable of a hold rather than if you round it over. So I always make my jam chucks a little concave. So we'll go ahead, put this into my big chuck. I've got some shelf and drawer lining here. We'll go ahead and fold this up a little bit. Make a bit of like a cushion for the bowl to rest on. It also helps grip a little better. And I'll go ahead and bring up the live center on my tailstock and put on a lot of pressure to make sure this is really held on there. This is basically the same exact mount as we used before when we were first trying to shape the outside of it, except it's a piece of wood and not just my bare chuck jaws, and I also have that shelf and drawer liner to cushion it a little more, just so nothing mars up the inside of my bowl. And just feeling this, I can already tell I don't have that much material on the underside of this bowl to mess around with. It's about the even as the rest of the walls. So it's going to be a really tiny foot, and it's not going to go in too much. I'm not going to scoop it in so it sits that flat. I'm just barely going to remove this tenon, and that'll be it. Just want to make sure this doesn't turn into a funnel. So we'll go ahead and turn this off, and that'll be it. Okay, so this is pretty much it at this point. So now what I do is take it out from the jam chuck mount, You can see there's like no marring or marks on the inside of the bowl here. It's nice and smooth still. And this actually came out really good. I like how it sort of shapes down into this nice, elegant foot. It's kind of cupped in a little bit, but this little nub still needs to come off. So what I do is chip it off with a wood chisel. And then I use that little 2-inch sander on the drill and just clean up the nub on the underside. And then we'll go ahead and date and sign it, and this is pretty much it. Okay, so we are about to get into the really fun part, the part I'm super excited about with this whole project. But before we do, I'm not going to make this a big safety thing about, I'm not going to tell you not to try it at home, because that's what I'm doing right now. I'm trying this, I'm having fun with it. But I do want to tell you that it is extremely, I cannot emphasize enough, extremely important to check out all your safety precautions before attempting this. All I'm going to tell you guys is just to educate yourselves on this, have a basic knowledge of electricity. So, without further ado, the next part of this really cool platter project is Lichtenberg burning. For those of you who don't know what it is, I'm going to shock this with like 15,000 volts, and it's going to make a crazy lightning bolt pattern all over this. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys my setup. Okay, so this right here is the bowl that I'm going to be burning today. This is my Fractal burner setup. This is the transformer from a microwave, and I'm asking you now not to ask me any questions about how this is wired or how this was built. I didn't make this. A great friend of mine in my wood turning club made this and gave it to me, so I'm not sure how that part of this whole system works. So don't ask anything about it. Coming off of the transformer, there are these two, I think these are called the arcing tools. Basically wired up to the transformer, they have two little metal points that you touch to the wood, and once you touch them, you are completing a circuit for electricity to travel through, and it's going to go straight through the piece of wood, which we're going to soak down with some water and baking soda so it is conductive, and that's going to make the fractal burning patterns in it. So from the microwave transformer and the arcing tools goes down through an appliance cord to a foot switch to turn it on. This foot switch goes to a heavy duty power switch, and that's going to a 110 outlet in the wall. The reason for the power switch and the foot switch is I don't want to have to run up to the wall to cut power to this thing if something goes wrong. So this foot switch is not active until I turn on that power switch. So once that's on, once I engage, or once I want to turn on the transformer there, I step on the pedal and I hold it down just like a sewing machine pedal to keep power, and if something starts going wrong or if I want to stop it, all I have to do is lift my foot and it's cut. So that's just an extra safety precaution. I really recommend if you're going to do this to get a couple different switches and not just plug this directly into your wall. I also want to mention that the bowl is sitting on a piece of rubber that's on top of my bench, and I'm going to be standing on this kind of rubber foam anti-fatigue mat. And I'm also going to be standing quite a ways away. I'm going to scooch this back even more, so I'm going to be about 6 feet away from the bowl itself. I don't want to be anywhere near it because there will be a small electrical field right around the arcing area. So I'm going to go ahead and show you guys how I'm going to set this up. So I've got these two spring clamps here, and all I'm going to do to set this up is pinch either one of these in a spring clamp, and then I'm just going to rest the spring clamp on the bench just like so. And this right here is literally all that's going to need to support these two arcing tools to the bowl. And let's say one of these tips, I always have my foot pedal that I can just lift from and the electricity is cut and there will be no more current. So just to give you guys a final overview of how this is going to work, once this microwave transformer is turned on, about 15,000 volts is going to travel from each of these arcing tools through the wood, and they're going to try to connect to each other to make the electric circuit complete. Obviously, wood is not a conductor of electricity, so I'm going to have to soak this down with a mixture of water and baking soda. And I'm going to mix that water and baking soda in 1 tablespoon of the baking soda to 1 cup of water and saturate the piece of wood with it. So this right here is my baking soda water mix. I'm going to go ahead and soak it on the wood with a paintbrush. So we'll go ahead and set up the 2 arcs on the wood here. Just going to go in on a small area on the side of the bowl. And I'm going to kind of stab it into the wood just a little bit just so it kind of stays put and has good contact. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and turn on our power switch and then our foot switch, and we'll see what happens. Ready?
That's pretty cool. Keep going.
Wow. That's pretty awesome. What's happening on that one?
It's going different directions. It's going down, now it's coming back. That's cool.
Mine's looking pretty awesome.
It's real cool. Now it's going the other way around the bowl. You're toward you. That's badass. Yeah, I'd stop it pretty soon, unless you... That's cool, dude.
Oh, wow. So that went way better than I thought it was. I'm going to go ahead and readjust these two. But basically the electricity just tries to get from point to point, so it's up to you to where you want to position these two arcs. But they're going to try to kind of make a straight line towards each other as best as it can. So I just went ahead and re-wet up the piece of wood a little bit because it was getting a little dry. So we'll go ahead and set the arcs back up and give it another shot.
Who's behind the mask?